What is up, guys? Jason up the New Age Revolution down here in the cave for a good old-fashioned, well, it's not a good old-fashioned, it's the debut, it's the premiere, it's the pilot of my top 5 ... list show. That's right, I've decided to add to the channel a top 5 show, and appropriately we're calling it my top 5 ... You see, the ... means it could be anything. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be 80s. It doesn't have to be toys. It doesn't have to be cartoons. It can be ... It can be anything. And so I figured, what better way to start off the top 5 list show concept is with my top 5 cheap beers, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, my top 5 cheap beers. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? Cheap beer is not necessarily bad beer, okay? These 5 cheap beers are inexpensive, but very, very good. Very, very good. Now, the next top 5 beer show is going to be the top 5 cheap beers that I've never had and are probably horribly disgusting. Hello Steel Reserve and Natty Ice. Okay? These beers I've had, they are my top 5 cheap beers in price only, ladies and gentlemen. And these are not uncommon beers. I'm not showing you anything you've never seen before. And for the first show, I've decided to actually rank them in top 5 order. That's going to be difficult going forward when I do top 5 lists, because it might be hard to differentiate between 3 and 4 or 4 and 5. But for the premiere, for the pilot, I have ranked them in order. If I went to a party, you guys remember parties? If I went to a party and they had these all lined up on the bar and said, choose your beer, I would choose number 1 first. My top beer. I would choose it first. So let's do it. Let's do the top 5 cheap beers in price only, and we're going to be consuming them ice cold, because that is the only way you can drink a cheap beer and enjoy it. Has to be spanking ice cold, ladies and gentlemen. And these are all canned, right? I do not like to drink out of a can. I think it throws off the taste. I prefer to drink out of a bottle, but I wasn't going to buy 6 packs for all 5 of these beers. So I've got some tall boys here, if you will, some 24-ouncers here. So we're going to be exiting them from their can and enjoying them in this Friday the 13th pint glass. All right. My number 5 cheap beer. The self-proclaimed king of beers, Budweiser. Now, nothing says Americana like Budweiser. No, I'm not going to be drinking all 5 of the beers here in a 20-minute episode. That would be death. We're going to enjoy America in a glass. Good old Budweiser. Your standard, stereotypical American lager. Urine-colored, crisp, cold Budweiser. If I had my choice, I would never drink Budweiser. It's American lager. It's like $2 a can for the tall boys. And it's crispy. And it's lagery. And it's America. And it's fine. It's fine. It's kind of like that beer that's at everybody's picnic. You know, when you get your hot dog and you go to the cooler to grab your beer, there's probably Budweiser in there. Budweiser, Bud Light, you know, it's in there. You're going to have some. You go to a picnic, you go to a barbecue, you're going to have Budweiser. It's just, you know, if I'm at a baseball game, you know, and I go to the concession, and they have a couple of beers on tap, Budweiser is always one of them. And it's fine. Not much going on there. You know, it gives you that 21-year-old hanging out in a garage listening to Korn feeling. That's what the King of Beers does. It's not the King of Beers, by the way. That's such a bad title to slap on your company. That's such a egotistical title. The King of Beers. So that means that Budweiser stands above and looks down on all of the other beers, and that could not be furthest from the truth. I think they should get rid of the king part and just call themselves one of the beers, right? Not the King of Beers. One of the beers. Next up, in your cheap beer category, Molson Canadian. This is my second Canadian beer on the list. You'll automatically be guessing, you know, Labatt's, but it's not what you think. Molson Canadian looks just like the Budweiser. Molson Canadian is your standard Canadian lager. I don't know what's more popular in Canada, so you Canadian fellas can tell me. Is Molson more popular than Labatt's? Or vice versa? Is Labatt's more popular than Molson? Looks like Molson's out of Montreal, which I can appreciate. They do have the world's finest hops. Why am I holding this like this? Should I stop holding this? Since 1786, 7 generations of our family have continued to make beer the Molson way. Well, yep. Definitely more flavor than Budweiser. Molson has a distinct flavor. It is absolutely different than the Budweiser. The Budweiser was just beer, right? And you got that like college, like everybody's couch in everybody's garage in college smelled like Budweiser. And then like your face starts to smell like Budweiser. But this is like there's some like difference. There's something different in here. Yeah, there's a taste. There's a flavor. Yeah, and I'm not a beer, like I'm not going to sit here and say I can pick up on oaky, almondy hints of lavender with a swallow of, you know, elephant shit. I'm not going to I can't get that deep right? So here's my deep assessment. This one tastes different than Budweiser. You kind of feel like you're drinking something. Yeah, and I don't know if I would like that something consistently. I don't know if I would like that over time. I don't know if I'm going to sit around and constantly make this my go-to beer. I think there's just too much something going on there at the end when you're drinking your Molson Canadian. I think there's just a flavor that I would get tired of eventually. But it's okay. I mean, it almost tastes like it's trying to be like a middle shelf beer. Number 3. Now this beer I discovered like I can already smell it, 5, 6 summers ago. Because, I will not drink a heavier, stouty, even a non-stouty heavy beer like Sam Adams. I don't like Sam Adams anyway, but anything from Saranac. I won't drink anything too heavy in the summer. So I was looking for a really light, delicious, crispy summer beer like 5 or 6 years ago. And I found Bud Light Lime. And I loved it. You could, that Bud Light Lime, on a summer day, when you cracked that open and you just started hitting that bottle, as soon as you pulled it away, there was like that much left. Like you could just drink the bottle of Bud Light Lime down in one shot. But they didn't have Bud Light Lime in. Oh, I just gave away number 4. Anyway, they didn't have Bud Light Lime in these 24 ounces. So I sacrificed. I swapped. Recently, I think a couple of years ago, my other Canadian beer, Labatt Blue, started putting out flavors. And so we're going to try this together and assume that Blue Light Lime is the same as Bud Light Lime, because Bud Light Lime is my number 3. Okay? Same look, nothing special about it. I can smell the lime big time. Let's see if it compares to Bud Light Lime. Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. That's kind of like the Bud Light Lime. Mm-hmm. I would be fine with that. Any of these, light beers with lime, with I don't know what other flavors they're flavor, raspberry. I don't know. I like them. I like them. I like them after I've mowed the lawn. I like drinking them in the pool. I dig these crispy, fruity, light lagers, and this one is the Canadian representation. Blue Light Lime from Labatt. Yeah, that's Bud Light Lime. So I probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. What they need to do, what Blue Light needs to do though, is put this in a clear bottle. That's how it looks best. I don't like brown bottles. I like clear bottles. I like to see my beer. Yeah. So your Bud Light Lime came in a clear bottle, and I prefer that. I don't know why beer isn't in a see-through bottle. People like to look at their beer. Yeah, very limey, very good, very summery. That's pool beer. That's grillin' beer. That's good. All right. Number 1 and 2 are very hard to rank in the order that I rank them. Both are special. Both are special. I chose number 2. So let's get into it. Number 2. My second favorite beer, my second favorite cheap beer, might also have a spot on my top 5 beers list. Forget the cheap beers. This will find a spot on my top 5 beers list. It won't be as high as number 2. But this beer and I have history. First of all, it is brewed here in good old Rochester, New York. And it's a brewery that's been around since 1878. It is the Genesee Brewery in Rochester, New York. Puts out Genesee beer. We have the Genesee River right next to the beer, right next to the brewery. So it's a pretty decent name for the beer. Genesee. Hopefully, if you know anything about the Genesee River, hopefully nothing from the Genesee River comes anywhere near the beer, the brewery, the people that work there, anything. You don't want to go anywhere near the Genesee River. But it's okay to call it Genesee because that's what Rochester is. This is Genny Light. Oh, by the way, Genesee is lovingly shortened and called Genny. Genny. And of course, Genny back in the day had a model, had a female model named Jenny. All right, so this beer and I have a lot of history. My grandfather drank Jenny every single day of his life. But yet I wouldn't have called him an alcoholic. Because this is the kind of beer that if you just drink it long enough, it's got such little alcohol. It's got like 4.0. It's got 4% alcohol. So it's a very, very, very thin beer. Budweiser has, let's see what Budweiser's got. Budweiser's got 5% alcohol. All right, Budweiser's at 5%. Molson Canadian is at, what's Molson Canadian at? 5%. Blue Light Lime is at 4%. And Jenny is at 4%. And I think if you know, my grandfather's been drinking these, or was drinking these his whole life. So he would drink 7, 8, 9 beers a day throughout the day. It was basically his liquid, right? So he'd have it at lunch, he'd have it at dinner. He's thirsty. I'm kind of thirsty. Why don't you go get a cup of water? No, let me get a beer. And he would go to bed at like 7 o'clock. That's what I remember about him. He would drink all day, fully functional, and he'd go to bed at 7 o'clock. So, you know, here's check out these little pictures of me as a baby, you know, walking around, sipping out of the Genesee can. Every picture that we have of Christmas, of just any kind of get-together, just look in the background, and you'll see this can just sitting around. And he would alternate between cans, bottles, I don't know. Towards his last, towards the end of his life, it was cans. But I definitely remember bottles around the house, too. So this was always in the fridge, and I sipped out of it all the time as a kid. And when I got older, I would drink beers with my grandpa, and that was like one of the coolest things ever. Older as in, you know, legal, 20, I don't know. I started drinking with him probably a few years before he died. And it was just like it was a neat little rite of passage. And I was probably 30. He's been dead since 2011. So that was 9 years ago. So probably around 30, 31, I'd go over, I'd mow his lawn, I'd sit in the garage with him, and we'd drink a couple beers. We never got schnockered together, but we would drink a couple of beers together. And what a cool thing, to drink, my grandpa's Jenny Light with him. And so as I got older, I would always make sure that there was Jenny in the house, because there was always Jenny in the house growing up. I lived with my grandparents since I was like 12. There was always Jenny. My grandma would buy 30 packs, and just, she'd bring them home, and my grandpa would come out as she was putting away the groceries. He'd come out, and he'd like sit in the garage in front of his fridge, and he would just stack, he'd take them out of the case, and he would just stack them nicely, and they were always just there waiting for us, and I'd always grab the one in the back, because that had been in the fridge, you think that if it's further back in the fridge, it's colder. So Jenny Light, Jenny Cream Ale, the brewery, the Genesee brewery has started becoming hip, right? They opened up a restaurant. They're doing microbrews now. So Jenny and Jenny Light are just consistent, and they're fancier beer. They tried a Scotch ale. They do a Kolsch, which is really good, really summery grapefruit beer. They do a Bock beer. They do, like I said, a cream ale. And they do a black cherry cream ale that I've yet to find, but I want to try it. But this is their standard. This is their old man's beer, Jenny Light. There's always Jenny Light in my house. And it also is different. It's very different. It's still your American lager, right? To me, the Budweiser didn't have anything going on. The Budweiser tasted the same from front of the mouth, back of the mouth, down out the chute. It's all the same. Budweiser, out of my list. The Molson Canadian had something going on. I could taste Molson Canadian. Obviously, you can taste Labatt Blue Lime. That's a specialty gimmicky beer. But Jenny Light tastes like Jenny Light. Yeah, and it there's something going on. It's good. It's not as like, the something going on is not as powerful as the Molson Canadian. It's lighter than the Molson Canadian, which to me makes it more drinkable than the Molson Canadian. And trust me, my grandfather would have been proud. At some barbecues, some summer times, Jenny Light's going down 7-8 beers, because it's 4% alcohol, and it's easy to drink. And usually I'm drinking, in between, meals, or not in between meals, but I'll drink 3 beers before the barbecue. I'll drink one while you're grilling, because that's just part of the man code. I'll drink while I'm eating, and then at the end of food, I'm like done, and I've probably get 7 or 8 in me by that time. But you know what? I'm fully functioning. I'm fine. And in 45 minutes, an hour, it's gone. It's over. Just a quick little fun ride during the cookout. Again, because of the 4% alcohol. But this was hard to make number 2, because it's so nostalgic. And I don't know, it's my grandpa, And so when I go to, my grandpa would always take me to baseball games. Red Wings, Rochester Red Wings are our local AAA team. And the company that he sort of co-owned had a box, box seats. So when I was a kid, we would just go and sit in the Milton Ron's box, which was a transmission company, a transmission shop locally. And that was half ours, and we'd sit in that box, and I'd eat my popcorn, and my grandfather would just, the beer guy, he never got up from his seat, because the concession guy would come to my grandpa like every 20 minutes, and just get him another Jenny Light. So wasn't easy to put it at number 2, but I had to. So here we go, guys. Number one. My number one cheap beer will make my top 5 regular beer list. It absolutely will. In fact, it's going to be a tie. When I do my top 5 regular beers, we're going to do Jenny and this one tied for number 5. Even though I grew up with Jenny, when I started drinking with my friends around 18, 19, 20, I boycotted Jenny for a brief time. I boycotted Jenny. Why? Because my grandpa drank it. And it's an old man's beer, and that's not cool. So I boycotted Jenny when I was hanging out with my friends. And I was such a huge corn fan as a kid. As a, 18, 19, 20 and on. Huge corn fan. So during my hangout party time era, Corn endorsed Adidas, my favorite clothing company, and I wouldn't say endorsed, but all of their videos, all their concert footage, all their behind the scenes stuff, they were always drinking this. And so I was like, I gotta drink that too. And so I drank this beer for 10 years. 10 years of hanging out with my friends, 10 years of partying, 10 years of getting a little older and going out to clubs and things like that. I was always drinking this beer. And I took a break from this beer for a while and then brought it back about a summer ago. And it was just like drinking an old friend. And we've all been there. We have all drank our friends before. And this was like drinking an old friend. And my number one cheap beer is straight from the Colorado Rockies. Coors Light. Coors Light is my number one cheap beer. I have spent so much time with Coors Light. And I'm starting to spend time with Coors Light again. I just love it. And it's, as far as alcohol content on this, 4.2. So it is the second weakest beer, alcohol content-wise. Budweiser and Molson are at 5%, I believe. It's right there, and I can't read it. Yeah, 5 for Budweiser, 5 for Molson. I think 4.6. 4.0 for Blue Light, 4.0 for Jenny, and 4.2 for Coors Light. So it's a weak one, and that again means you can put down 6, 7, 8 Coors Lights throughout the course of a party, throughout the course of a barbecue, and the taste. I'm going to tell you this, and I know this is wrong. I'm wrong on this. When you drink a Hefeweizen, right? You get some banana with the Hefeweizen. And I don't know if it's just psychosomatic, but I get a really, really, really light banana when I drink Coors Light. I don't even know if it's in there. I can kind of get it. A little bit. Not a lot, trust me. But Coors Light tastes like Coors Light. And Coors Light Ice Cold, out of all of these, even Jenny, Coors Light Ice Cold. Look, picture this for all you beer people. You're mowing the lawn. It's hot. You're sweating. Not even mowing the lawn. Forget mowing the lawn. You're digging a hole. I made a clothesline week ago. I'm digging. I'm getting the post hole digger. And I'm tired. And it's hot. And sweat is dripping into my eyes. And then it's burning my eyes because I got sunblock on my head. Right? So it's burning. And all I want is an icy Coors Light. I love this stuff. I don't know why. I do know why. I just told you. I just explained for 20 minutes why. I love Coors Light. That is my number one cheap beer. And a little spoiler, it will be on my top 5 all-time beers. Tied for 5th with Jenny. And, tied for 5th with Jenny. But the top 5 all-time beers will not have any of these other ones on there, I guarantee you. We're going to talk a little bit topper shelf beers when I do my top 5 all-time. But Coors Light is a hot dog beer. It is a baseball game beer. It is a pool. It is a swimming in the pool. It is a go bowling with your friends and get a couple pictures. I just love this stuff. I'll eat it or I'll drink it with a steak. I'll drink it with a hot dog. I'll drink it with a bologna sandwich. I'll drink it with a garbage plate, which you guys, most of you people don't even know what a garbage plate is. But man, oh man, peanuts, salt and Coors Light, off the planet. Eat some peanuts, slip the shell in every now and then. Am I the only one who will eat the shell if it's salted? Occasionally. Not every time, because then it binds you up and you got to poop. But I'll eat the shell. Yep. Coors Light, it's the one. It's my number one cheap beer. So let's recap. Number 5. Budweiser. Good old American Budweiser. The king of beers, ladies and gentlemen. Budweiser. Molson Canadian from our friends up north in the civilized land. Also from the land of the mask wearers and civilized nation who have flattened the COVID curve. Labatt Blue Light. Lime. Now, will I drink Labatt Blue? No. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. But Blue Light Lime, I liked. Number 2, good old local Genesee beer. Hello, Grandpa. Love this stuff. But the number 1 New 80s Revolution beer of choice is good old Coors Light. Ice cold, crispy clean. Coors Light. And now I'm going to go grill some chicken sausage. It's a local deli in town has this thing called jalapeno popper sausage. It's chicken sausage with jalapenos, with cream cheese, with nacho cheese, all in the sausage. Good night, get out of town. That sounds tremendous. That's my top 5 cheap beers. If you guys voted for the Galoob episode, all you gotta do is wait 24 hours. It's coming tomorrow. And I'm gonna finish this and go grill some sausage. Thanks for hanging out with me. See you next time. A good night now.